Uh-oh.
In her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Unbeaten up-and-comer, maturing Joshua Buatsi is monitoring the Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol situation. I presume he means to face the winner, or at least he's saying that. I'm assuming. When Joshua Buatsi sat back and surveyed the light heavyweight landscape after his decision victory over Dan Aziz back in February, the picture couldn't have looked much better. With the WBO, WBC, and IBF 175-pound champion Artur Beterbiev set to unify the division against his WBA counterpart, Dmitry Bivol, and a WBO interim title fight with Yarde seemingly secured, the 31-year-old's frustrating stop-and-start career finally seemed to have some real momentum. You know what they say about best-laid plans?
They go to shit.
Let's get one thing clear. Joshua Buatsi didn't have to wait to fight for a title. He was offered Dmitry Bivol and a 7-figure payday to face him over a year ago, before he decided to leave Matchroom for Boxer.
He's the one who walked away from that.
They said it was because it came with strings attached, that it would have extended his stay at Matchroom, and he didn't want to do that.
Pretty standard deal. Industry standard offer if you're gonna get a title shot.
Just think it needs to be said that Joshua Buatsi didn't have to wait to fight for a title if what he really wanted was to fight for a title. So he leaves Matchroom for Boxer, has one or two fights. I think the last one was the Dan Aziz fight, and then talks start for an Anthony Yarde fight. But Anthony Yarde became embroiled in an ongoing contractual dispute with Queensberry Promotions. Then Beterbiev injured his knee, causing his fight with Bivol to be delayed by 4 months. Inactivity has been Buatsi's most difficult and persistent opponent throughout his career, and with all 4 light heavyweight world titles tied up for the remainder of this year, and most of his high-profile, lucrative opponents seemingly set for a prolonged spell on the sidelines, Buatsi spent a couple of weeks worrying that he would once again be forced to sit on his hands and watch events play out in the light heavyweight division. Fortunately, other pieces fell into place for him. First, Willie Hutchinson produced an excellent performance to beat Craig Richards in Saudi. Then, the WBO quickly agreed to Queensberry's request that the 26-year-old Hutchinson be considered to fight Buatsi instead of Yarde. The decision to stage Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua at London's Wembley Stadium gave a fight between Buatsi and Hutchinson a natural home, and Buatsi quickly pivoted and fell right back into training. Buatsi, 18-0 with 13 KOs, and Hutchinson, 18-1 with 13 KOs, will fight in London on September 21st. After the Aziz fight, I think I had a month off, Buatsi told Boxing Scene. I still trained, but it was a month in England and Europe. It was a month away from camp, basically. Then I came back to the States till early June. I figured out the fight with Yarde wasn't going to happen. I wanted to fight in mid-June.
What I think?
This guy didn't want to fight for a title. When Matchroom offered him that Bivol fight, he didn't really want it because he goes over to Boxer, and all he does over there is fight domestic-level guys. Nobody's serious.
I remember what he said when it was announced that he had signed to Boxer. He felt like he wasn't being seen enough on the DAZN platform. But you tell me, what has he done since leaving Matchroom for Boxer that got him seen?
That got him talked about. What has he done? It seems to me that the real reason he went to Boxer is because he didn't want to box at world level. He wanted to spend more time at domestic level.
The problem?
You're an Olympian. You're expected to move at a faster rate than Joe Blow that walked into a boxing gym. You are expected to compete at a certain level.
The truth.
I don't think Joshua Buatsi's team, his trainer, his manager, nor Joshua Buatsi himself actually liked their chances against Bivol, and that's the real reason they turned the fight down. That if you felt you could beat him like you beat Dan Aziz, well then you would have fought him.
So if things have become stagnant for you, it's really your own fault.
I came back and I watched the fight between Richard Riakporhe and Chris Billum-Smith, hung around, and then this fight came about, and I got on the plane and came back out here. I've been training, I've been in camp. I think people wonder what I do in the long spells in between fights. I tell them, you get up and you go to work. I get up and I go to the gym. It's the same thing. That's my routine. Training is the first thing I do. Once you're finished, you can do whatever you want. But when I wake up, I go to the gym first and spend hours there, and then the day is mine. When I come to the States, it's literally only boxing. That's all I do out here.
Joshua Buatsi said he felt he wasn't being viewed enough on DAZN. The fights were too hard for people to find.
A contrived statement, disingenuous to say the least, but you tell me, since going over to Boxer, what exactly has he been doing that got him more talked about or more seen?
What?
You didn't go over to Boxer for that. You went over to Boxer so you could stay domestic.
Dan Aziz is a domestic level guy.
Anthony Yarde is a domestic level guy. Though talk of a fight with Yarde is certain to resurface should he beat Hutchinson, Buatsi's immediate plan is to get past the Scotsman and then make sure he's at ringside in Saudi Arabia to watch Beterbiev and Bivol do battle October 12th. That will be the next move after this fight, God willing, he said. Head out there to see the two champions go at it and see who unifies the division.
Don't David Benavidez got first dibs?
He's supposed to, but I don't think he's any more committed to that fight than Joshua Buatsi is, and I don't actually think Joshua Buatsi's committed to fighting the winner of that fight.
Then after Hutchinson, who do you think he's gonna fight?
I think after the Hutchinson fight, if Joshua Buatsi wins, and I do think he's gonna win, I think they'll revisit the Yarde fight, because it's been Joshua Buatsi's intention to stay domestic.
That's what I think.
Joshua Buatsi has been making a trip to California to work with the respected Virgile Hunter for over 3 years. Transatlantic relationships don't tend to last that long unless both parties enjoy and recognize the benefits of working together and can see room for further success and growth. Buatsi received plenty of plaudits for the way he tamed the determined and aggressive Dan Aziz, but Hunter is renowned for being a perfectionist, and Buatsi has adopted the same mindset. When he sat down and watched the fight back, Buatsi instantly spotted areas where he could improve and situations that he could have handled differently. When he and Hunter compared notes, their criticisms tallied up. There's a few things that I picked up on, and he was like, yeah, that's not good, Buatsi explained. There are things to work on, things to improve, and things that you can't get away with all the time. As much as I want a dominant win, from my perspective, there's still so much to work on. There's a lot of things that I wasn't happy with. I got the job done comfortably, but there's a lot more to work on and things that, going forward, I won't be able to get away with.
My opinion, if he does the business with Hutchinson on the undercard of Joshua versus Dubois, and I think he's going to, what he's going to move to do is revisit the Yarde fight.
Because Anthony already has a couple of losses at world level, because Anthony may seem a more beatable opponent than the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol, because there's a lot of domestic money to be made.
Yeah, it's a domestic fight in the UK, a domestic level fight, but it's a hot ticket. You can sell it.
Bill it as a pay-per-view, sell out an arena with that thing. So that's what I think Joshua's going to focus on beyond the Willie Hutchinson fight, and hopefully by then, Anthony Yarde's promotional situation will be all sorted out.
And he'll be ready to fight.
That's what I think Joshua Buatsi's gunning for. That's what I think he'll move to do. He's not committed to the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol. Though on the off chance that he does end up fighting the winner of that fight, just for argument's sake, for conversation, I think they both beat him.
I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's developed enough.
When I look at Joshua Buatsi, I see a good, serviceable fighter. A skilled fighter, yes, skilled, but too textbook for either Dmitry Bivol or Artur Beterbiev. I don't actually think he does anything better than either of those fighters. He shows good fundamentals, good jab, good speed on the jab, good backhand.
It's all good.
Though nothing really stands out. Nothing jumps out at you about this fighter. I notice that he doesn't have much of a work rate within a round, that he is a characteristically economic fighter.
I think he's got a suspect engine. I think he's got a suspect chin.
The reason we don't see him do more within a round is because if he tries to, he's going to burn out. He's going to gas out. He's not used to a high-paced, high-octane fight.
That's why I think he doesn't throw that much.
It doesn't take very many chances to get off big punches, to land with power, to land with authority. Even though he does have power, I don't think he takes that many chances because he doesn't want to get cracked.
Suspect chin.
Doesn't want to get hit. Against Artur Beterbiev, if Artur emerges the victor in October, I think Artur would come at him with so much, so fast, so powerful.
Strong.
Joshua Buatsi would be like a deer in the headlights in that fight. I think that fight would end up looking a lot like the Marcus Brown fight.
Like that.
Joshua Buatsi ain't shown me that he's got dog in him. To trade punches mid-range, stay inside with a guy like Artur, he's going to try to move, he's going to try to box, stay behind the straight punches.
With Artur.
With Dimitri, the aesthetic of the fight I envision is the aesthetic we saw in the Bivol versus Richardson fight. Greg Richards, a common opponent between them.
It's going to be a slow fight at a controlled pace. A lot of quiet moments. Joshua Buatsi's not going to take no chances.
It's going to be a lot of fencing of the jabs, and as stated, Joshua Buatsi is a good textbook fighter, good, but I don't think he does anything better than Dimitri Bivol. So what I envision is Bivol winning a points decision.
I think he does everything better than Joshua Buatsi. And when he needs to, he lets his hands go. When he needs to. We saw that in his last two fights.
How do you think he's going to do against Willie Hutchinson?
I think he's going to knock him out.
You think he's going to knock him out? You just said the guy doesn't let his hands go enough.
Not enough for an Artur Beterbiev or a Dimitri Bivol, but for Willie Hutchinson, who really ain't that big a puncher. He's more boxer than brawler, more of a mover.
I could see Joshua Buatsi amassing enough confidence to let some hard punches go, because Willie Hutchinson ain't that authoritative a puncher. He spends the entire fight on the fly, on the balls of his feet. He don't sit on his punches, so that might coax Joshua Buatsi to take some chances with him. Chances he wouldn't take with a Dimitri Bivol or an Artur Beterbiev. So I think he's going to knock Willie out.
He'll make it through that fight.
But I don't really think he's committed to facing the winner of this one. No, I would sooner expect Joshua Buatsi, if he takes care of business next month, to revisit the Yarde fight, perhaps with some Saudi help.
That's what I expect.
Because I think the real motivating factor for Joshua Buatsi leaving Matchroom for Boxer is he knows in the UK scene, he can make money right there fighting domestic level guys. Comparable money to what he was making at Matchroom in what are more winnable fights. More winnable against more beatable opponents. That's why he really went over there.
He doesn't really care about fighting for a title.
I don't think he does. I think he figures if he can make comparable money staying domestic, that's exactly what he's going to do.
Ball's in David's court anyway.
David Benavidez is supposed to have first dibs on the winner of that fight, whoever it is. I don't think David's committed to fighting the winner of that fight either, but he is ahead of Joshua Buatsi in the queue. So before it becomes about Buatsi versus the winner of that fight, it's first about Benavidez versus the winner of that fight. And we'll see what happens.
Or what doesn't.
And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Daniel Dubois says beating Anthony Joshua will make me a legitimate champion.
Is that true? Is that how you see it?
It's one way to look at it, because Daniel didn't actually beat the champion in order to be the champion. The title, IBF title as it were, was gifted to him. Daniel Dubois is the reigning IBF heavyweight world champion, but he has yet to win a fight for a full world title. However, he intends to rectify that when he fights Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium on September 20th, live on Sky Sports box office and DAZN.
After Daniel lost to Usyk,
The Londoner regrouped by defeating Jarrell Miller, and then he won the IBF interim title after his victory over Filip Pogovic. After beating Tyson Fury to become the undisputed champion, Usyk agreed to a rematch and subsequently vacated the IBF title that saw Dubois upgraded to a full world champion.
it's important to note that Usyk was not stripped of the title by the IBF. He wasn't hit with an order or a deadline. He gave it up willingly.
Which is why some think it dubious that two guys that Usyk already fought and already beat are now fighting for a title that he used to hold. He gave it up willingly. He believes a victory,
He being Daniel Dubois.
over Anthony Joshua, a world-class heavyweight who has been a unified champion himself twice before, will legitimize his champion status. I'm the underdog because I have to prove myself, and beating him and winning this next fight will set me as a legitimate champion. I'm raring to go. This is everything. The big opportunity, Dubois told Sky Sports. Dubois not only wants that win over Joshua, he wants to do it inside the distance. Win by any means necessary, but a stoppage is definitely what I'm after. a good stoppage, and a statement victory. That's what I'm all about, he said. Very confident, very sure, and happy and ready to do the business. I'm just raring to go, he added.
I kind of agree that if he can win, that would further legitimize him as a champion, because there's beating a champion to be a champion.
The most widely accepted and recognized method to become a champion. There's fighting for a vacant title, fighting for a belt that someone gave up, and then there's being elevated to champion.
That's what they did with Daniel.
He didn't fight for a vacant title against some top contender. No, he was elevated straight away because of his interim status. Some think it dubious.
They don't respect it.
Though one way he can legitimize his reign as a champion is by successfully defending that title to prove that he's worthy of holding it. He's worthy to have it. Doesn't just apply to Daniel in a very general sense. The more successful title defenses you can rack up, the more legitimate as a champion you become. Your reign as a champion. Every day I'm working towards it, leaving no stone unturned. Just work, 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 and victory is definite. Don Charles, Dubois' trainer, is happy with what he sees too. He's looking good. He's looking good and feeling good, Charles said of Dubois. He's enjoying his boxing, tweaking every shot that he has in his arsenal. I've got a very happy camp and a very happy fighter.
Happy fighter is a dangerous fighter.
Should he win, this would be the biggest scalp on his entire CV, his entire resume. A more than legitimate scalp from a more than legitimate fighter if Daniel wins. The same is true in reverse. If Anthony Joshua beats Daniel Dubois, you can't say that Daniel was too old, some guy in his mid to late 30s.
Like what they say about Vladimir Klitschko, Alexander Povetkin, Kubrat Pulev, to diminish Anthony's victories over them.
No, you can't say he was some old guy or some inactive guy. Daniel Dubois is riding high, coming off of 2 victories over 2 unbeaten fighters. He is the current IBF heavyweight world champion, Don Charles added. Every disappointment is also a blessing. The journey we've got planned for us, that's the way it was written. We are here. All this, whether it was the disappointment against Usyk, the Miller fight, the Hrgovic fight, brings us to where we are today. What happened, happened. Although it was disappointing in the beginning, it was a happy ending. In the end, that we're here today.
I think it's lost on many of the American fight fans that this is a big fight, and this is a good fight, years in the making.
Whoever wins, it's a big deal. It's a big deal on UK soil. It's a big deal for the other man. If Daniel wins, if Anthony wins, he becomes a 3-time heavyweight champion, and I believe this will be the 4th world champion he will have taken a belt from. The first was Charles Martin, the second was Joseph Parker, the third was Andy Ruiz in their rematch.
When Anthony won his belts back, Andy was the reigning champion.
Now with Daniel, he's facing the newly crowned IBF heavyweight champion, and if he beats him, that makes 4.
Beats him, that makes his resume even deeper.
As his transatlantic rival, Deontay Wilder, fades into obscurity and the background, history will show that it was Anthony that was more willing to fight the who's who fighters than Wilder.
That's what it's gonna show.
That he beat more divisional top 10 fighters than Wilder and took more belts from more champions than Wilder, even if they never fought.
Which is really Wilder's fault.
It's not because Anthony didn't take chances. It's not because Anthony didn't fight good fighters. If he can beat Daniel and become a 3-time heavyweight champion, well, that's a very short list of people that ever did something like that.
See if he does.